Hello, everybody. Stephen Ruderman here with your Insomniac Lunatic Fringe Giants postgame show, and it truly is the Insomniac Lunatic Fringe tonight, or shall I say early this morning, because it is 1:49 in the morning. This is my first show in over 3 weeks, and I thought to myself, with the Giants playing just incredibly great baseball right now, I think it's time for me to start doing these shows again. I started doing these shows in July when the Giants were in contention. And then after they collapsed and fell out of it, I was doing them less. But now the Giants have won 9 of their last 10. And wow, what a difference the last 11 days have made. The Giants were in complete free fall after the loss to the Brewers and the Contreras walk-off home run on August 22nd. The Giants were 7 games under 500 at 61 and 68, having gone 20 and 39 after their win in LA on Friday, June 13th. And they were playing at a pace where it was not out of the question for them to lose 90 games. Since then, the Giants have won 9 of their last 10. They had the 7-game winning streak at the beginning of June, but they were doing that mostly relying on home runs. They ended up winning 8 out of 9. They had the stretch where they won 7 out of 9, playing the kind of baseball they played during their 24-14 start in early July. But then, of course, they collapsed after that. The Giants have now won 9 of their last 10, their best stretch of baseball since the 24-14 start. And the Giants, even though they have tied a San Francisco record for home runs in 16 straight games, that record goes back to the end of the 1962 season and the beginning of the 1963 season, including the 3-game tiebreaker series against the Dodgers. Those were regular season games. The Giants played 165 regular season games in 1962. Despite that, the Giants have been playing these last 10 games the way they played at the beginning of this in spring training and at the beginning of the season, which was they were doing a little bit of everything. They were pitching, they are pitching, they're playing good defense, they're hitting for contact, they're playing small ball, they're hitting for power. The one thing they're not doing that they need to do more is stealing bases. I hope we can see that more. But the Giants have gone from 7 games under 500 to all the way back over 500 at 70 and 69. And tonight's game was a pretty emotional roller coaster. Logan Webb getting his second straight start after a Giants win. He hasn't had the chance to make very many starts after Giants wins this season. So cool that he gets to do that 2 starts in a row. And he was up against Kyle Freeland. So just as he did in the first inning yesterday, Rafael Devers hits a home run, a towering blast down the right field line, and the Giants strike first. It's 2-0. Rafael Devers watched his shot. I'm not a big fan of that, but it's become commonplace in the game today. Major League Baseball promotes it. There's really nothing baseball quasi-reactionaries like myself can do about it. Kyle Freeland was understandably upset. He started barking at Devers, and after Devers rounded first base, he was screaming back. Phil Cuzzi ran in there at the age of 70, by the way. He just runs in there and tries to break it up. And then Matt Chapman comes in and shoves Freeland. Bench is clear. Freeland somewhat gets into it with Willy Adames. A lot of pushing and shoving. It wasn't a brawl. I mean, the Giants have not been involved in very many bench-clearing fracases, however you say that word, over the years. The last time the Giants were involved, at least that I can remember, in a significant benches clearing melee was in August of 2018 when Yasiel Puig and Nick Hundley got into it at Dodger Stadium. Of course, there was the Shane Victorino, Eli Whiteside semi-brawl at then AT&T Park, August 5th, 2011. We had Pablo and Russell Martin getting into it August 12th of 2009 at AT&T Park, Giants and Dodgers pushing and shoving. Anyway, everything cleared. Freeland was ejected, Matt Chapman was ejected, and Willy Adames was ejected. no one should have been tossed. But how Major League Baseball does things is if anyone gets super physical, they get tossed. In 2006, Michael Barrett punched A.J. Pierzynski after Pierzynski barreled him at home plate. Pierzynski didn't even fight back, but he was tossed, along with Barrett and Scott Podsednik, who had jumped into the pile. So Freeland, Adames, Chapman all gone. And what I thought it was uncalled for Chapman to just go in there and shove Freeland. I can maybe understand ejecting him, but I don't think anyone should have been tossed there. Definitely not Adames and Freeland. And I can understand Freeland. The Rockies are having a horrible season. Until 2.5 months ago, they were on pace to finish over 100 games under 500. Tonight was their 100th loss, and until 2023, they had never lost 100 games in a single season. Now they've lost 100 games for the third year in a row. Kyle Freeland had given up a lot of home runs this year. This was just a boiling point for Kyle Freeland. Because I'm sure Devers isn't the only one who's watched a shot off him. And this is a little more than usual. He kind of did this weird glance towards the ball, but I doubt it's the most egregious way a guy has watched or pimped a home run off Freeland this year. But as I said, it was a boiling point. I thought what Matt Chapman did was uncalled for. However, it did show how much these guys care about each other as a team. So I can appreciate it in that sense. The fact that Chapman and Adames rushed Devers' defense, that they're rushing to defend and stick up for their guy. I love that. And this is the kind of situation when the bench is clear and you got emotions are running high and you got guys going out there to stick up for their teammate. It's situations like these that can really bring a ball club together. Now the Giants ended up winning 7-4, all 7 of their runs coming on home runs. Rafi Devers hit the home run in the first inning. Casey Schmidt. And how about Casey Schmidt and Devers? Casey Schmidt, who got hit last night, was basically trying to loosen that up by hitting in the cage today. Remember, he already missed 2 weeks and went on the IL after getting hit on June 25th against the Marlins. And so he has to come in and play second base. Rafael Devers, who hasn't played third base since being traded to the Giants, he plays third. And really, for those two guys to truly step it up tonight, especially both Devers, who hasn't played third base since being traded to the Giants, Schmidt playing after getting injured last night, playing hurt. Schmidt in the 5th inning hit a line drive home run. Later in the inning, Wilmer Flores hit a 2-run home run. And then in the 7th inning, Patrick Bailey hit a 2-run shot. It was only his 3rd of the year. And I lied. I said the home run was in the 7th inning. It was in the 8th inning. It's late in the evening, folks. I should probably be in bed right now. Doing shows at nearly 2 o'clock in the morning is going to make you miss a couple of facts here and there. Giants win 7-4. It just, I don't like that I didn't like that it was all home runs, but it's Coors Field. I can cut them slack for that. And it worked tonight. And at least, again, I have nothing against home runs. What I have a problem with is relying on home runs as a team that plays half your home games at Oracle Park. And that is why the Giants had the stretch they had from May 9th to August 22nd. So the Giants are 5 back of the Mets in the National League wild card. They're still somewhat in it. And baseball, it's a weird and crazy sport. Anything can happen. And with the Giants playing well, now they have the incident that really unites them. And the fact that they have a pretty easy schedule the rest of the way, it's not out of the question for the Giants to make a late run and go to the playoffs. As you can see in the standings, the Giants and the Reds are tied. They are the 2 teams closest to the Mets. They're 5 back of the Mets, just for the record. If for whatever reason both the Mets and Padres fall out and the Giants and Reds get in, or one of them falls out, or the Giants and Reds are in a tie, and one of the Mets or Padres finishes outside of the wild card, if it is going to be a team, it would most likely be the Mets. The Giants hold the tiebreaker over the Reds. The Giants went 5-1 against the Reds this year. The Giants do not hold the tiebreakers over the Mets and the Padres. The Giants went 2-4 against the Mets and went 3-10 against the Padres. So the Giants will have to beat out one of or both of those teams in order to get into the playoffs. It will probably take the Giants 88 wins to get into the playoffs. So if the Mets go one game over 500 the rest of the year, as you can see on your screen, the Mets are 75-64. They're 5 games ahead of the Giants and Reds, who are both 70-69. Let's say the Mets, who like the Giants and the Reds, have 23 games the rest of the year, go 12-11. The Giants would have to go 18-5 to get into the playoffs. Not out of the picture, but a very tall order and a difficult task. Now let's say the Mets go 9-14 the rest of the way and end up finishing 84-78. Then the Giants will just need to go 15-8 the rest of the way. That's still going to require some damn good baseball the rest of the way, but something that is very much doable. You also got the Diamondbacks and Cardinals, who are tied at 69-71, and I have no clue who won the season series between them, so I'm not going to waste my time looking for it. But just to give you an overall view of where the wild card stands in the National League right now. The Mets, of course, have played very shaky baseball since they were over 20 games over 500 in early June. The Padres have just lost Xander Bogaerts for the rest of the regular season, and Jason Adam, one of their dominant late inning relief guys, for a while. He may be gone for the season. I'm not sure. I think he may have had to been carried out on a stretcher when he left his game the other night. The Padres have lost 3 in a row, including losing 2 at home to the Orioles, of all teams. Giants are just 6 back of the Padres, who are a game ahead of the Mets at 76-63. So anything can happen. The Giants have a pretty easy schedule the rest of the way. The Mets have a pretty difficult schedule. Though to give it to the Mets, they won their first 2 out of 3 in Detroit, and they did so by scoring a lot of runs. They beat the Tigers 10-8 in a slugfest on Monday, and then last night, now that it's Wednesday morning, they beat the Tigers 12-5. And for the Mets, they have to go to Cincinnati this weekend. The Reds are, they've fallen back to just a game over 500, but they're a tough team to play. They have to go to Philadelphia for 4 next week. They then host the Padres for 3 in 2 weeks. And with the Padres and Mets playing each other, that's a great opportunity for the Giants to advance in the standings. Though in that situation, what you're rooting for, if you're the Giants, is 3 28-inning games where both teams have to completely blow through their bullpens. It's doable. I doubt it's going to happen, but it's very much doable. The one thing I want to stress, though, is my fear that if the Giants do make a late run and either finish 1 or 2 out or get into the playoffs, is that Buster Posey will think, oh, things are great. We can bring everyone back next year. Because as great as the Giants started the season, as great as they're playing right now, you cannot ignore or write off the stretch from May 9th through August 22nd as a fluke. Whether you like it or not, this has been the 4th straight season of mediocre Giants baseball, where they've played really great at times. They went from double digits over 500 to all the way under 500, as they did in 22 and 23. They were only 3 games over 500 at most last year. Changes absolutely have to be made. You have major holes in your lineup at catcher, at second base, in right field. I think the Giants really need to take a look at Jesus Rodriguez next year. I think he'd be a great everyday catcher. Casey Schmidt is a major league player. He's not a quadruple A guy, though I don't like using that term because it diminishes a lot of very tough ball players who worked very hard to get into that position. But I use it because that's, a term people understand. He is a major leaguer, but he's not an everyday second baseman. I really like Drew Gilbert. What I love about Drew Gilbert is this kid has personality. He's a little crazy. He does this thing where he kind of yells and goes crazy, and then Matt Chapman grabs him by the neck. I love that. And it's rare that you have players, anyone in baseball, with an actual personality, and who's a character, who is funny, who will keep you on the edge of your seat wondering what they're going to say or do next. I've compared Drew Gilbert to Nate Schierholtz. He's got a lot of Nate Schierholtz in him. He can play three outfield positions. He's incredible at playing balls off the 24-foot high Willie Mays wall at Oracle Park. Wall that has so many unique features and crannies. Possibly the hardest wall to play a ball off of as an outfielder in all of baseball. But I don't think the Giants should not rely on him to be their everyday right fielder. The Giants need to make additions at second base and right field. I do think Jesus Rodriguez could be a good everyday catcher. And the Giants definitely need to make changes to the coaching staff. I really admire and respect Pat Burrell. Incredible ball player, big part of the Giants' first championship in 2010. But he is a scout, not a coach. And what I found concerning was Buster said on his Murph and Marcus interview, I think it was Murph and Marcus on KMBR last Thursday morning, was that, I want to keep the core pretty much intact. And look, there are some good players in this core, but there also needs to be some real changes to this core. At the end of the day, the Giants have had a mediocre core these last 4 years, and you can't just go all out and be in 100% win now mode in them. The good thing about the Giants' collapse is it made Buster realize that. It made Buster have to retool the farm system, something the Giants still need to do over the winter, and perhaps sell off someone like Robbie Ray. I actually like Kyle Foster's idea of trading Robbie Ray to the Marlins for Sandy Alcantara and prospects, and then further compensate for the loss of Ray by signing Zach Gallen or Dylan Cease. Changes definitely need to be made here, and what I worry about is that the Giants finish the season strong, which I absolutely want them to. I want the Giants to have their first winning season since 2021. It would only be their second season in the last 9 years. I worry that Buster is going to be, we're bringing everyone back, totally ignoring how the Giants played for, unfortunately, the majority of the season. The Giants started off 24-14 and then went 37-54 through their next 91 games, a majority of the season. You can't ignore that. You can't write that off as a fluke. This season has shown you, or shall I say, has showed you what and who the Giants really are right now as a team. They're a mediocre to solid team, just as they've been throughout these last 4 seasons, that needs improvements. Also, the bullpen is much weaker after the trades of Tyler Rogers and Camilo Duvall, the former of whom I'm really hoping the Giants can bring back this offseason. You also have the fact, I already mentioned Burrow, the Giants need to make changes to the coaching staff. As with Bob Melvin, as I've said, his problem is he's burned out. He's managed 21 of the last 23 years, and I think the collapse in July really got to him. When people were saying in June that he needed to go when the Giants were still, 6, 7, 8 games over 500, that was ridiculous. That was people wanting to blame someone for the Giants not being a super team. But he really seemed to have crashed and burned in July and August. And I think what Buster needs to do with Bob is say, all right, Bob, we exercised your option. You can come back. The job's yours if you want it. But we are making changes to the coaching staff. And if there are no guarantees for you after next season, And if things aren't going well, we may even make a change in the middle of next season. I want you to go home and think it over with your wife for a week or two and then come back to me. But if you do come back next year, I want to know that you are 100% committed. And I need you to know for sure if you're 100% committed. You need to think that over. Are you 100% committed? Are you ready for the grind of your 22nd season managing a big league team over the last 24 years? That's how the Melvin situation needs to be handled. And I really like and respect Bob Melvin. I was really happy the Giants brought him over here. I do think he was the perfect guy at the time to replace Gabe Kapler. He's definitely seemed happier as of late, but again, he's a guy who's like 66 or 67. You saw what managing did to Bruce Bochy's health. Managing a big league team is an enormous grind. Actually, he's 63. He's younger than I thought. Bob Melvin is someone who could use a few years away from the dugout. And if he decides that he's not up to managing next year, I would hope that Buster would give him a front office or a scouting role. But what this is really about is just how much of a grind and a toll managing takes on a guy, not just mentally, but physically. This game can kill you. Bruce Bochy managed 25 straight seasons and ended up with heart problems. He's definitely seemed a lot more relaxed and less tense since he had the 3 years off. But it just goes to show what managing a big league club will do to someone. So we will see what the Giants can do in their remaining 23 games. Giants and Rockies will go at it again tonight, 5:40 first pitch in San Francisco, 6:40 in Denver. Robbie Ray getting the start. German Marquez, who has had a pretty rough season, 3-12 with a 6.14 ERA, getting the start for the Rockies. See if the Giants can complete the sweep. And then they'll have the off day tomorrow, followed by 3 over the weekend in St. Louis. The Giants have yet to play the Cardinals this season. They'll play the Cardinals for 3 in St. Louis this weekend, and then they'll host them for 3 the final week of the season. And who do the Giants close out against at home? The Rockies. This thing is far from over, folks, and what 2025 has shown me is that baseball, other than 1981 and 2020, is truly a marathon and not a sprint. And I can't wait to see how these final 23 games unfold. Throughout the first 3 months of the season, I was convinced the Giants were going to go to the playoffs. After the trade deadline, I declared the season over. You have the receipts to prove that. And here they are on September the 3rd, 5 games back with 23 to go. And while that is going to be a tough task to overcome, they're still very much in the thick of things here in September. They're playing meaningful games in September, which they kind of did in 2022 and 2023. Both years they made it to game 158. But maybe we'll see them make it to the final weekend of the season. Maybe we will see them actually go to the playoffs. The Mets are not playing have not been playing real consistent ball since June. They're prone to a collapse. The Padres losing Bogarts and Jason Adam, they're having a rough go right now. They could be prone to a collapse. Giants have a pretty easy schedule the rest of the way. They've won 9 of their last 10, and they're more united than ever after the incident with Devers and Kyle Freeland. So we'll just see how it all plays out. This has been your Insomniac Lunatic French Giants postgame show, a production of Sports Radio Service. So for my boss, Lee Leonard, I'm Stephen Ruderman. Hope you enjoyed the show. Have a good night, and I will talk to you soon.